All right, guys, welcome back to another edition of A Thousand Movies Before You Die. Another one of my short little reviews. Let's call them Tobe's short little reviews of obscure films. This one is The Phenix City Story. Join us on A Thousand Movies Before You Die to see if this is indeed one of those movies that you should watch before you die. So we are reviewing the Phoenix City Story from 1955, starring John McIntyre and Richard Kiley, not the most well-known character actors. Um, John McIntyre was, I think, in the Asphalt Jungle. He was one of the police colonels. But yeah, this is not a star-studded film. This is a message story, and it's not Phoenix, Arizona, which I thought it was. It's Phoenix City, Alabama, which was a famous gambling and vice hub, right? I guess in the 1950s, I believe, famous for having a corrupt government, corrupt cops, corrupt businesses, and infamously hard to clean up. And this film documents, I guess there were some very sensational newspaper articles written about it. At the beginning, it says, as talked about in Life magazine, I think Time magazine, and something else had done a huge, cover splash of this. They got it cleaned up. This film is, I really don't know how to take it. Do I recommend it? If you're a real diehard, yes. I wouldn't say it's going to be in the thousand movies. It's just it's problematic. In the middle, it's got a real hard-hitting style, really brutal actually. The biggest problem I have with it is the beginning. It has a square up, which is what Eddie Muller from Noir Alley calls it. I don't know if that's his terminology, but it's when a movie at the beginning has either a cop or an FBI guy or maybe a reporter, some lame government official, and they're sort of telling us about the importance of this film or about the case. And it's usually just something that you have to, kind of get through until you get to the film. Well, this has really one of the longest one of these I've ever seen. This long square up of what seems to be an actual reporter talking to actual citizens of Phoenix City, people who are involved in being victims of gambling or victims of these vice rackets. I think they interviewed one of the reporters or one of the people who was responsible for taking it down. And this goes on for quite a while, like 15 minutes of this, real life, they're not actors, sort of letting us know how utterly important this movie is. And then another 5 minutes of, the song that was written, I think it's called the Phoenix City something. And it's really lame. All it is all about how what a horrible town it is and all the vice in it. And so we get 5 minutes of this song and this woman, singing it really luridly. And it's one of those unfortunate things where you got to see the whole song being sung. They often do in these old films. And so, yeah, it's about 20 minutes of just setting us up that, yes, this is a den of iniquity. It's lots of gambling and it's cheating. The gambling is all cheating against the customer. And so yeah, we get this giant setup. And then the movie that follows is pretty hard hitting. I mean, what these gambling gangsters or racketeers do to maintain their power is pretty intense. Like there's a little kid murdered, thrown out of a car. Yeah, there's bloody shootouts, a sort of a death walk where a guy is shot and there's blood all over his suit. It's really intense for 1955. This is quite a bit before Bonnie and Clyde, and their sort of bloody, or the Wild Bunch, movies famous for these bloody scenes. This is ahead of its time. So it is definitely a brutal film. And then my other complaint is you don't get the proper comeuppance for these criminal syndicates. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's really not that satisfying, the way that it deals with some of the sort of high up criminals, I guess. So yeah, I mean, it's worth watching for that chunk there, a big chunk of the film, right? The sort of after the 20 minute square up, and then just before, I would say, right the seconds, of the ending, up to that point, it's a good film. It's a hard-hitting film. It's basically centers around a young lawyer who's come back from being an army lawyer in Berlin after the war, and his old father, who the citizens are trying to rope into sort of a citizens committee against these gamblers. And is he or isn't he going to run for state attorney general and clean up this town, and sort of how that happens? And are they going to do it vigilante style, or are they going to do it using the law? And that's another very important, very, very heavy message here that they want us to make sure that we get, right? Where the vigilante style versus the law and order style. So, if you were to scrub the film of all its sort of excessive moralistic, taking itself way too seriously, and the kind of ridiculous setup, then I think you got a pretty good film in there somewhere. But as it stands, I would give it maybe, I don't know. It's got a 7.2, I think, on IMDb. No, I don't know. I would put this more in sort of the 6.6, 6.7 range, and it was just gonna fall short of the thousand movies before you die. I mean, we're nowhere near having that many on this channel. So yeah, sure, it's in there. But once we have the thousand, it'll definitely be bumped up. Having said that, I enjoyed the film. I had a lot of fun with it. Even the square up, if you like the kind of stuff just for the historical element, and it has a certain entertainment factor. I would say for the top tier diehard fans, yeah, give it a watch. You're not going to be disappointed. For those of you who are a little bit more stingy, no, wise with your time, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe wait until you've seen some other amazing films, and there's a long lineup before this one. But if you are looking for a fun film and you've seen them all, give it a whirl. Phoenix City Story from 1955. Somewhere floating around in the movies that you should watch. No musts there at all. Get busy watching, get busy dying.